Torah is the administration of death and letters. It doesn't tell you, you guys can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. There's this other verse that I had written down here. I can look it up if you want, but it says, my people are wise when it comes to working evil, manipulating, usury and threats and intimidation and extortion and embezzlement. But they're fools and ignorant when it comes to working righteousness. Paul was saying, the Torah tells us where death is. And so we sit there and we manipulate the science of death. But the words of Mashiach are the administration of life. And if we give the words of death so much regard, how much more should we give the administration of life? In these very letters which tell us where death is, they also tell us what life is. But we never think about where the life is, because all we worry about is the anger and the wrath and the sickness and the illness that comes from the crushing and oppression, because we're not listening to the audio of the legal Aleph Tav. If we listen to the audio, what his heart was saying about the life that's in the Aleph Tav, we could see that the chok is really a treasure box, but it's translated as the word law that was done away with, that we hate, that we scorn, that we don't want anything to do with. But it's really his treasure box. And what Paul was actually saying is, the letters of the Torah were given to show us where death is. Now we know, let's not go there, but let's learn how to work life.
That's the garden. The garden. There was a tree of good and evil, but there was a tree of life. Let's do that. Did none of that, but this is where we want to be, right here.
Paul's saying the same thing, but it's been used to tell us, oh, the Torah is a bunch of death. Don't worry about the words and the letters.
Well, I thought what he was talking about was the curse of the law. Going back to Deuteronomy and saying, blessings and cursings.
That's a different text.
That's a different verse.
Oh, it is? Oh,
So what I'm saying is, you can do the same thing with Greek that I'm doing here with Hebrew. I haven't studied Greek, but I did for the sake of that verse, because I wanted to double check what that preacher was saying. And I went back and I used Strong's Concordance, and it's not a lexicon.
Those preachers take 10 Greek lessons to 1 Hebrew. That's where that came from.
Well, but they've still misinterpreted it. In spite of the 10 lessons, they've misinterpreted it because it doesn't line up with what the Hebraic says. So they went...
Well, that's why. Because they don't study Hebrew enough to know the difference.
So part of what I'm saying about the New Testament is that if you know the Torah, if you know these words of the Old Testament, then you can use it as a plumb line to measure everything in the New Testament. And if someone looks off, double check it.
Exactly. That's why, Paul, so many Christians use Paul to defy the Torah, and
Right.
if you're interpreting Paul's words that way, then you're interpreting them
But
wrong.
you're doing it on
because he
purpose.
wouldn't.
That's right. So you have to take as a given,
Yeah.
would Paul be desecrating Torah or not? If you say no, you'll read Paul one way. If you say, oh yeah, he started a new religion, he did away with the Torah, then you'll read it a whole different
Right.
way.
If you want the law to be done away with, you'll read it.
I have a question on a verse that Yeshua said, that I've heard this before, but I have no idea where it came from. But I heard that when he was on the cross and he said, we always have heard it, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. I've also heard it be translated, forgive them not, for they know what they are doing.
Yep, that's what I've seen translated in Greek Hebrew.
So there's this,
I
that's
haven't
like
heard that one.
major.
See, but I wouldn't be surprised because in Hebrew, that's what happens. You have these words, and I can show you sentences. There's no time for it now. You can find them yourself. You sit there and read, like I said before, by my name Yahweh did I not reveal myself?
Right, that's why.
By my name Yahweh I did not reveal myself.
But this is a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Because you either have that passive Jesus, meek and mild, or you have Jesus who says, Father, forgive them not, for they know what they are doing.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Did they know
He was
that?
hidden from the princes of the world. He had to deliver that. Those things were left him to serve his purposes.
That's okay, I have too.
Well, I don't know. See, I would have to say, let's go back and look at the Hebrew. We don't have it in Hebrew. We have it in Greek, and the Hebrew that is have like the Dutelit and Shem.
Well, they have it in Aramaic, but...
Well, what about Matthew?
Well, the Hebrew Matthew, there's two versions.
But that was
Dutelit and
translated in the
Shem.
13th century.
That's the thing. It's a back translation from the Greek. So you've already got what you already say it in Greek, and then you translate it in Hebrew. It's not the original Hebrew. So we don't know. So this is where you have to sit there and choose for yourself and say.
So when is that going to be revealed?
I would say it almost doesn't matter. On the one hand, if Yeshua says, these guys don't know what they're doing, Father forgive them, this is all part of the plan. Okay, but if he said, these guys know darn well what they're doing. Maybe what he was saying is, the ones that know what they're doing, there is no forgiveness. But the ones who are ignorant and just going along with the program, go ahead and forgive
They have
them.
a chance.
It's like the Israelites, like when they were worshiping the golden
I
calf.
have rebellion versus ignorance
But it
because
kind of
the
matters
leaders
because the
led
entire
you astray.
Christian faith is based upon this premise of forgiveness. And yes, I believe in forgiveness, but it's very interesting because I could see Yeshua saying that.
He said you're a den of vipers and your sepulchres are white on the outside,
You
but
guys are gonna hell
inside
to
you're
pay later.
really
Right.
rotten.
Right,
to the
so
core.
it's just interesting, you know.
I hadn't
you have
heard
this
that one.
repeated scene and it could be completely.
But again, it could go either way, and there's almost, at least my frame of mind at the moment, there's no point in determining which of the two it is, because the both can be seen as true.
I was just saying, in the mind of a Christian, they would have a hard time swallowing that version.
Yeah, but they have a hard
Forgive
time
them not.
swallowing what's written in black and white, too, you know, so it's like,
It's the same way when he's on the cross and he's saying to one of the thieves, you know, today you
Yes,
will be
today,
with me.
verily you will
Yeah,
There were no
yeah.
comments.
There were
I
there's
tell
no
you
punctuation
today.
in Hebrew or Aramaic, so yeah, that's a totally different
Well,
meaning.
But we know that answer too, though.
yeah, see, the whole thing about this is it makes the whole entire scriptures up for grabs. It's a whole new game. You thought you knew things, nobody knows.
Ah,
Let's just start looking, it's a whole new, do you ever read Calvin and Hobbes cartoon?
I love
Yes.
that.
Remember the
That's
last
my
one?
favorite.
Remember
My
the
boys
last
love it.
cartoon?
No, I used to have a big thick book
Some
though, and my
people read
kids loved
Calvin,
it.
some people read Calvin and Hobbes.
He actually named Calvin and Hobbes after Calvin, John Calvin,
Did he really?
and Hobbes the philosopher, yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah.
So what was the
religious
last, what was the
philosophy.
last one?
The last one, the very last one he ever did, there was a snowstorm, and they said, wow, look at this, you know, this wide open landscape. Let's go adventuring.
Let's go adventure?
Let's go adventuring. That was last year.
That was it.
Wide open, freshly fallen snow.
Yeah,
That's kind of where we're at with this. It's like,
yeah, I love it.
let's go adventuring. We got the whole Torah. We got the
That was
whole.
a great cartoon.
Well, he tells us to seek and we'll find, so.
There's a
If you're
lot of
not
stuff.
seeking, you're not finding.
I think the little grasses are just not popping up.
That's what it looks like. So we never know if we've been sitting down in Shabbat, keeping the festivals for how many days does it take once it starts watering to germinate? Some OPB, public broadcasting, had this one show one time. It was just amazing. All these different seeds that a lot of them grew out in the
If you're
desert and some
radish,
in the forest.
you're up there and gone.
Well, some of them sprout instantly as soon as the first rain. Other ones, the first rain hits and something triggers, and it
It has
waits
to
about
wash
a
off,
week and then it
there's
sprouts.
an enzyme that stops it from sprouting. That has to wash off first and then the next rain.
So it's the second rain, right? So the soil's already conditioned for the next
How
rain to
cool is
hit.
that?
So he's got all these things embedded in nature, and it's not this like, you know, one thing and then another thing happens. He's got time release. We don't know what has been
Hey,
happening.
dormant for many years.
He says, I'll plant it, and when I'm ready, it'll grow.
Yeah. He says, okay, you guys are gonna go 40 years around because I gotta now set everything up because you wouldn't go in. Now we have to wait for the whole next thing to be set up. And he says, I've got terror in these guys' hearts and they're gonna run in fear from you. All you have to do is step in and these guys are gonna freak out.
That's right.
They didn't know
What
that.
about the wheat? Does it take summer? years?
I want to be a
What
radish.
about the wheat? Does it take summer? Right?
No, wheat
Hi,
is,
Kieran.
this is what really mixed me up. The latter rain and the early rain. I was always taught they were the opposite. The early rain is actually right around Sukkot, when they plant the wheat for the new harvest. And that's the early rain. The latter rain is right before they harvest it, around Shavuot, so that it will harvest, so that they can harvest it. And so,
That's my name and number.
so when is the latter rain gonna fall?
Gretchen and their numbers and Bill's cell phone number. So,
In
call,
getting a second
yeah, pass it all.
Okay, so
So,
I'll call this.
Bill-
thing
Bill is
Portland
going to
tomorrow
call
and see
tomorrow.
what's going on.
Bill and Gretchen are going to
Okay.
call tomorrow.
okay, so, well, you have the contact.
Great, thank you.
So I think we might have you on Sunday and Monday if you're available.
Okay,
So,
all right.
I don't want to take your,
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There was no dogs away from the deer, okay?
Well, you're gonna leave the one in,
She said she,
Well, I'm not sure if I'm
she's
gonna
a tough dog.
To bring Daisy with me sometime, oh, the two of them.
I'm
would
going to
sit.
his
Really great.
study group in Sherlock, and he's talking about saying, he took a year and a half to go through pretty enlightening.
well, I'm not speaking to the other places.
Because the old direction next time, talk about this last one.
Yeah, with
Santa Rosa.
Yes, so I can make sure I know, but I'll make sure you get it.
Okay,
Well,
well, it could have been Shannon, had that list originally.
Put all the dues
And then, you know, the people in Sacramento,
whatever.
It'll be twice as thick.
we're still meeting, I don't know exactly where they're meeting now. I think they're
Study on
meeting
I have a chart of all the.
Did I give you the 40 page for this one?
I have them, but somebody ripped them off, I left them here. Seriously, I left them here. And Johannes will bring them home and they're hopefully laying around.
Take these places and put them.
No, I can print the files, I have the file, I have printed it, I can print it. I have that in my computer, and I'll just reprint it, no problem.
Does anybody else want a copy of the 40 pages? Yeah, we got it.
I can put one.
Okay.
I think I have, I usually don't go away when
You got another dictionary, I thought you had one.
so I can just do it.
I've got this dictionary and one more left. I've got one that I left up in the room. You need a dictionary? You want to get one?
I really do. The pay is not on Wednesday.
Saturday, Saturday.
I'll show you around.